Alright, so I just thought I'd talk about kind of how the two patterns I noticed and I was talking about in my last two videos, typology of uncertainty and typology of introspection. I just thought I'd talk about how I see those two patterns combining in my everyday experience, or just interacting, I guess is a better way to put it. So I think I mentioned in the last two videos that the closest descriptions I've found for these patterns have been from Personality Hacker. So one of them would be the introspective pattern, which is they would describe that as NI, or Introverted Intuition, I think, because you're watching your mind form patterns. That's how they describe Introverted Intuition. And that's kind of what my introspection is like. Um, I'm just kind of trying to identify myself using different cognitive functions in real time. And then there's the skepticism, which they describe as kind of culling your mind of bad information, or not necessarily false information, but just, I guess, kind of false, yeah, false information, false beliefs, false ideas, false paradigms. Just kind of purging your mind and cleaning out your mind as if it was filled with code and some of it was bad and you had to rewrite some of the code so the program would run appropriately. So I see myself doing those two things pretty frequently, or I mean, pretty much a lot of the time, if not all. Not obviously not all the time, but a good amount of time. And these two patterns seem to kind of talk to each other, not or interact, kind of pass information back and forth. So what that looks like is like I'll have a thought, or I'll form an idea about what cognitive functions I'm using, what my type is, whatever. That's the introverted intuition piece in terms of watching my mind form patterns. I'm noticing my mind form these patterns and I'm trying to put some sort of concept on that. And then what happens concurrently is that the skepticism will notice that the introspection has formed an idea of something and will be like, wait, what about this? Have you thought about this? Is this true? What about this? If this is true, can this also be true? Kind of like a stereotypical description of introverted thinking as far as Personality Hacker is concerned. And so that is kind of what I spent a lot of these past years that I've been looking into typology doing. I've been forming a idea of what the pattern my patterns, I guess, my mind is forming are, and then I'll at the same time I'll deconstruct those same patterns and just kind of that continue that cycle ad nauseum. So the way I've been thinking about that pattern is it's a combination of introverted intuition and introverted thinking. It's like a NITI loop or a TINI loop. At the very least, it seems to be that, from a personality hacker perspective, it's those two cognitive functions working together, or not working together. They're actually kind of going against each other because like one's trying to build up some piece of knowledge and the other one's trying to like deconstruct that same knowledge. But it's really like a purging or a purification exercise. Cognitive Type talks about that. They're another typology group. They talk about introverted intuition and introverted thinking in similar terms, and they kind of use that purification or purging description for introverted thinking. So they also kind of are in the same ballpark with those definitions to an extent. But yeah, I think that's pretty much about it. That's all I wanted to cover. And I kind of think, and the other thing I guess I would add is that I'm not sure that loops are always negative. I don't think there's anything special about, like, let's say NI and FE working together. I don't think there's anything special about that for, let's say, an INFJ. I think an INFJ, as far as I would define an INFJ, which is somebody who has kind of NI up here, FE, TI, and then SE down there, and that kind of like diamond pattern. And so you have these two oscillations that are kind of working, not necessarily together, but both working. And I don't think it's necessarily the case that just because you're doing a lot of NI-TI oscillating that you're unhealthy or depressed. I think one-sidedness is kind of the main concern. Like if you're doing all all one oscillation, none of the others. I think that's just bad or potentially maladaptive, regardless of what type you are. But yeah, I guess that's all. The only other thing I wanted to tag. Yeah, and so my description of the introspection as introverted intuition and the skepticism or uncertainty as introverted thinking I talk about in my previous two videos, my only previous two videos. But yeah, and like I think I mentioned in those videos, I'm making these videos to try and see like who else is kind of noticing these patterns or dealing with these patterns in their life, and if you are, feel free to leave a comment or let me know. Thanks.